Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our August 2021 safety meeting. Let me remind you of the ground rules. Please remember, once you've completed this video, you must remember to come into the training department or safety department to take the sign-off and the quiz. Please remember about that quiz, so please pay attention. If you are having difficulties getting in seeing me, Christian, or Jamie, the three that will be responsible for the quiz, please contact one of us and set up a time so we can meet. Remember, we do give you 2 weeks to do this. So there's plenty of time to get in contact with one of us and us to work with you to see you and get this done. So let's begin with our first topic, our Transdev videos, attentive driving. We must remember that in a world full of distractions, you as the professional must try your best to maintain focus on the task at hand, which is safe, defensive driving for you and those around you and in your bus. Please remember, there are 3 major distractions. They are the main distractions that affect all of us: visual, manual, and of course, mental. So let's see what they have to say on this topic.
Hey there folks, welcome back. My name is Hassan and I'm a safety manager at Transdev. Today, we're continuing our discussion on attentive driving. Attentive driving simply means you employ the many defensive driving techniques you already have in order to keep your focus on the road. It's a foundation for being a safe professional driver. I'm sure you all remember that a perfect safety day is a day without a preventable motor vehicle accident. A day without a passenger or pedestrian injury requiring transport to the hospital, or a day without any OSHA recordable employee injuries. Now, we can't achieve a perfect safety day without attentive driving. If you want to prevent accidents and keep yourself and others safe, you need to look ahead, you need to look around, you need to leave room on all 6 sides of your vehicle. You need to communicate to the other drivers and pedestrians. The definition of distracted driving is any activity that pulls your attention away from the road. It's no secret that lots of people out there drive distracted. They mess with the radio, eat and drink, you gotta have that fry, text, you name it. However, that's not an option for you. You're a professional driver, and you know better. The amateurs on the road, pedestrians, and your passengers all rely on you to keep them safe. Last time we discussed the dangers of distracted driving, we shared some staggering data, like the fact that 9 people are killed every day in the US as a result of distracted driving. And being on your phone makes you 3 times more likely to have a crash. So now, let's take a deeper dive into why distracted driving is so dangerous and how attentive driving helps you to avoid potentially deadly accidents. For starters, there are 3 types of distractions: visual, manual, and mental. Visual distractions take your eyes off the road. This includes anything from looking at someone who got pulled over to turning your head to talk to the passenger. Now, manual distractions take one or both of your hands off of the wheel for something non-driving related. A common example is eating or drinking while driving. And lastly, mental distractions. mental distractions take your mind off of driving. Daydreaming is one of the most common mental distractions. Let's learn more about the importance of attentive driving from one of our operators.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another discussion on attentive driving. Attentive driving is so important because it's a foundation to everything we learn about preventing accidents. If you aren't paying attention, you can't avoid risk. Each type of distraction you just saw is extremely dangerous. They can, and often do, cause fatal collisions. However, combine one or more of these types of distractions and you have a recipe for disaster. That's why texting and driving is so dangerous. It combines all three types. It's a visual distraction because your eyes are looking at your phone. It's a manual distraction because you're using at least one hand to text. And it's a mental distraction because your mind is on the conversation, not on defensive driving. I'm sure you know that for Transdev operators, using your cell phone while driving is never acceptable. The best thing to do is turn your cell phone off and stow it away while you drive. Being distracted behind the wheel, whether it's visually, manually, or mentally, comes with many risks. The two biggest are inattention blindness and slower reaction and response time. The first, inattention blindness, is when you're looking at the road but you don't process everything you're seeing. This most often happens to drivers who are daydreaming or talking on the cell phone. You must be paying attention because you're looking at the road, right? Not true. Estimations indicate that drivers using cell phones look at but fail to see up to 50% of the information in their driving environment. That's like if you were driving on a road with 10 other vehicles, but 5 of them were invisible. It's not hard to see how this could lead to an accident. And that goes for hands-free devices too. Regardless of the task, if it doesn't have to do with defensive driving, it puts you at risk for having an accident. Distracted driving also means that you have a slower reaction and response time. This one is simple to understand. You won't respond as quickly as you normally would to situational demands, like a car cutting you off or traffic suddenly stopping ahead. When you have a slower reaction and response time, you might have to perform a panic stop. Even worse, you might not be able to stop in time to avoid a collision in the first place. There's a lot that can go wrong when you're distracted behind the wheel. But here's the beauty of it. You can easily make yourself safer by being an attentive driver. With attentive driving, you'll see the risk around you and avoid inattention blindness. You'll be quick enough to safely react to your changing environment. You'll prevent accidents because you'll see problems ahead of time. Will you be a distracted driver or an attentive driver? The choice is yours to make every moment you spent behind the wheel.
Whether it's your cell phone, a talkative passenger, or an accident on the shoulder, taking your eyes or mind off of the road for even a second means that you miss tons of crucial information. That's information that you need in order to drive defensively. What do you stand to miss if you're distracted? Well, for one, the car in front of you suddenly stopping out of nowhere. The light coming up that's turning red. The stop sign at the four-way intersection you're approaching. Perhaps worst of all, you might miss a pedestrian stepping out in front of your vehicle. Missing anything on the road can lead to an accident, and it only takes 1 second of not paying attention. That's why attentive driving is so important. Always make sure to look ahead 15 seconds. Look around. Change your point of focus every 2 to 3 seconds. Check your mirrors every 5 to 8. Actively look for risks and plan how to avoid them. If you're doing that, it's hard to get distracted. Leave room on all 6 sides of your vehicle, especially in front, and communicate your intentions to everyone sharing the road with you. Here's one last method for avoiding distractions when you're behind the wheel. Just say wait. Whether it's reaching for something or messing with the radio or answering the phone, just say wait. Whatever it is, it's not as important as attentive driving. You're a professional operator. Your passengers and the public are counting on you. Their safety is in your hands. We know you're up for the task, and we know you can be both attentive and defensive. Thanks for joining us today on this important topic. It will take you, and it will take all of us, to make today a perfect safety day. See you next time.
Also, when it comes to our passengers, we must remember that all of our passengers are not the same. That includes our beloved ADA passengers. Please remember, as a reminder, again, if a passenger, regardless of walker, cane, wheelchair, and or if they're walking on their own power, requests the ramp, deploy the ramp. No questions asked. Deploy the ramp. With this next topic, it is bringing up our importance to securing the wheelchair or mobility device. Now, there have been some complaints as of recent of what can we do, what will we do with securement. Please understand, if you are not able to successfully secure a wheelchair, we should not be transporting it. But there are some rules on this. If you are unable, as the driver, to secure this wheelchair, you are to notify dispatch, and a supervisor is supposed to come out and help and assess the situation to see if the vehicle can be transported. So please watch this video on this great information.
Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of our monthly safety initiative. My name is Davis, and today we're covering a very important safety related topic, one that directly concerns our customers. In fact, this safety topic deals with the second and third part of our perfect safety day definition. Now, if you remember, a perfect safety day is a day without a preventable motor vehicle accident, a passenger or pedestrian injury requiring transport to a hospital, or an OSHA recordable employee injury. Safely securing passengers and mobility devices helps reduce injuries to our most vulnerable passengers, and the importance of that can't be understated. Now, all of our passengers deserve a safe and comfortable ride. With the help of operators like yourself and Transdev employees all over the country, we can make that happen. Transdev's highest priority is safety. That's the safety of the public, our operators, and of course, our passengers. As a company, we're committed to providing service to everyone, regardless of age, background, or ability. Your passengers rely on you for transportation, especially those using a mobility device. It's up to you to make sure they're safe when they're on your vehicle. There are lots of potential issues when it comes to safely securing passengers and mobility devices. Maybe you have to deal with mobility devices that are difficult to secure, or you have passengers who need but don't want your help. Now, we'll discuss how you can provide the best service possible for all of your passengers who use mobility devices. Let's learn more from one of our Transdev operators.
Hey everyone, my name is Kenny. I spent the first few years on the job driving a paratransit bus. I've had dozens, if not hundreds of passengers in mobility devices. I quickly learned that one common issue we all face as operators is maintaining on-time performance. It takes roughly 3 to 5 minutes to properly secure the common wheelchair. I know you want to keep your schedule, so you might be asking yourself, is the 3 to 5 minutes worth it? We're here to tell you that it absolutely is. Safely securing your passengers and their mobility devices is a job requirement. It's one of the easiest things that you can do to prevent an accident or an injury. That's not to say it doesn't come with its own set of challenges. For starters, not every device is easily secured. You might run into problems securing larger devices like motorized scooters. If a device can't be properly secured, call dispatch and let them know what the problem is. Or some passengers might not even want their device secured. It's important to know that you should never operate your vehicle with an unsecured mobility device. If a passenger refuses, politely explain that it's for their safety and it's part of your job. If that doesn't work, manually activate Smart Drive or Drive Cam. Document the event and call dispatch to let them know the issue. There's also the safety of you, the operator. Now, back injuries are all too common amongst operators when they secure mobility devices. During the securement process, it's important to always bend at your knees and stay square with the device rather than twist your back. Make sure that you think about back safety as we cover the process today. Most mobility device incidents happen not because the operator didn't know how to secure it, but because they got out of their routine and missed a step, like forgetting to put on the front straps or even the rear straps. Now keep in mind, as you're seeing these steps, that it's important to perform each step the same way every time. If you recall, securement is a two-part process. Part 1 is securing the mobility device to the bus. Part 2 is securing the passenger. And it's best to always explain to your passenger each step as you're doing it. It helps your passengers trust you and to feel safe. Before you can secure the device to the bus, you have to get your passengers onto the bus. And you do so with the lift. If your location uses posy belts, begin the process of safely securing your passenger onto the lift by putting the posy belt around the passenger. Do so before they're on the lift. Then position the passenger onto the lift. Set their device's brakes and secure the device to the lift. Make sure you squat down to do so. Never bend at the waist. Gently make sure that the device is secured by grabbing both wheels and pulling back. Don't grab the handles and pull. At this point, you secure the device to the lift with the straps, if it's applicable, to your location. Once they're at the top, go back in the bus, disengage the straps connecting the device to the bus, and then release the brakes. Guide them onto the bus. Now that your passenger is on the bus, you can begin part 2, the securement process. Part 2 involves 2 steps. Step 1 begins with securing the 2 front floor anchors in the floor track. Squat down using your legs to avoid hurting your back. Make sure that the anchors are to the outside of the footrest at a 45-degree angle so that the straps won't be obstructed by the footrest or your passenger's feet. When the anchors are secure in the track, push the release button on the floor anchor and pull on the strap. Connect the hook on the strap to the mobility device and be sure to connect it to a structural cross member. Repeat this on the other side, but remember to squat down and use your legs. And never twist your back while you're squatting down like this. Next, install the 2 rear floor anchors in the floor track to the inside of the rear wheels. Again, squat down to do this. Don't bend with your back and don't twist. To secure the 2 back floor anchors, simply repeat the steps that you just saw for the front floor anchors. When the front and rear straps are in place, manually tighten the straps. Pull down on the strap to ensure that it has the proper tension and gently ensure that the chair does not move. Then, you gotta re-engage the brakes. The floor anchors will automatically tighten if they're loose. Now you may have to manually tighten any other straps. If everything is secure, reapply the mobility device brakes. Step 2 is securing your passenger with a 3-point system. Now there's different ways to do this, depending upon your securement system. But in all cases, the shoulder belt attaches from the vehicle to the lap belt. The lap belt attaches to the wheelchair 4-point anchor system, or the lap belt is attached to the wheelchair itself. No matter how it's attached, make sure the lap belt is snug, but not too tight on the passenger. The shoulder belt should be snug against the passenger's shoulder and not against their neck or hanging loosely on the outside of their arm. When it's time to drop off your passenger, wait to remove all the securement straps until you've prepared the lift. If you release the passenger's securements before preparing the lift, passengers may move around inside the bus or load themselves onto the lift, and this can easily lead to an injury. Place your passengers on the lift and secure them just like you did to get them onto the bus. Embrace the habit, secure the knowledge, and practice the routine.
Just like Kenny said, safely securing passengers and mobility devices only takes a few minutes of your time. Now, other demands might be competing for that time as well. Your route schedule, delays due to traffic, Or maybe it's just been a long day. Regardless, taking the time to secure your passengers and their mobility devices correctly and safely is crucial to avoiding preventable injuries and incidents. It's always worth your time. Thanks for your time and attention today. And thank you for taking on the responsibility of making today a perfect safety day.
Well, all right. For our next video, and our last for the Transdev videos, is our pedestrian and cyclist awareness. It is very important to remember your LLC principles. And this video will break it down for you when it comes to your pedestrian and bicyclist awareness. Look ahead, look around, leave room, and communicate. Also to remember your active looking, which includes the first two, which is look ahead and look around at all intersections. As well as your rock and roll technique. You are to go forward, backwards, side to side. Monitor your turns. Monitor how fast your turns are going. 3 to 5, whether you're going right or you're going left. That is very important. Understand what it is you are looking at. It does you no good just to stare and watch things happen without you taking your preventative action. So hopefully this video will help give you a little more tips and insight on this topic.
Hey everyone! Welcome back to another installment of our monthly safety initiative. My name is Lindsay and I'm a manager here at Transdev. Just like we have in all of our past segments, we're talking today about how we can make today a perfect safety day. From the office to the shop to out on the road, a perfect safety day is a day without a preventable motor vehicle accident, a passenger or pedestrian injury requiring transport to the hospital, or an OSHA recordable employee injury. We've learned a lot of defensive driving techniques, and we need them all if we want to prevent accidents. But today, we're covering one of the most important things a Transdev professional can do. We're talking about preventing pedestrian and cyclist collisions. Now, as a professional operator, you know that lives are in your hands. It's your life, your passengers' lives, other motorists' lives, and of course, the lives of pedestrians and cyclists. In fact, pedestrians and cyclists are the most vulnerable people out on the road. Accidents with them are always severe. They're usually fatal. Think about it for a moment. What would it be like if you hit a pedestrian or a cyclist? It would change your life forever. The cold hard fact is that these accidents are sometimes caused by Transdev operators. And I guarantee that every operator who's hit a pedestrian or cyclist never thought it would happen to them. At Transdev, even one accident with a pedestrian or cyclist is unacceptable. We need you to take it seriously. You're the professional. It's up to you to prevent these accidents. Protecting the lives of people out on the road means using the 4 principles to driving safely. That's LLC. Look ahead, look around, leave room, and communicate. We'll cover all of that today, but first, let's take a step back and answer 2 questions. What do we mean by pedestrians and cyclists? And why do accidents with them typically occur? First, a pedestrian is anyone on foot, in, or near the road. It includes people walking on the sidewalk, joggers, and people waiting at your next bus stop. Next, the term cyclist includes bicyclists and motorcyclists. In both cases, these folks are much more at risk for serious injuries in an accident than any other motorist. Now on to what causes these accidents. It's obvious why accidents with pedestrians and cyclists are severe, but why do they happen at all? Well, for one, driver workload studies show that it's hard for us to detect pedestrians and cyclists when we're behind the wheel. Sometimes operators will be looking right at a pedestrian and not even recognize them. That's because we're so focused on other things like cars and traffic that our brains won't recognize other people on the road. That makes your job even more important. You have to actively look for pedestrians and cyclists when you're driving. Otherwise, you could miss them and cause a serious accident. Keep that in mind when we talk about how to use look ahead, look around, leave room, and communicate to prevent accidents with pedestrians and cyclists. Let's start with look ahead. We have an operator who can fill us in.
The first L in triple LC stands for look ahead. You need to focus your attention 15 seconds ahead when you're driving. Hopefully you're doing this anyways, but when you look ahead, it's important to actively look for pedestrians and cyclists. It's especially important at intersections. Intersections are the most common place you'll see pedestrians and cyclists. As you approach an intersection, actively look ahead to see if there are any pedestrians or cyclists there. Is anyone on the curb waiting to cross the street? Are there any cyclists in your lane? But remember, pedestrians and cyclists could be anywhere, not just at intersections. Actively look ahead for them at all times. And when you see them, be prepared to stop. Pedestrians and cyclists are amateurs and often take way too many risks. Pedestrians will run out into the street. They'll cross illegally. They'll dart in front of you to beat the light. Cyclists aren't any better. They'll blow stop signs and traffic signals. They'll enter the street from driveways and cut you off. Look ahead to see them and be prepared to stop.
Now that's some great advice on looking ahead for pedestrians and cyclists. It's always best to see them in advance. That way, you have time to react. Here's one thing that we haven't said yet. When you do see them, always give them the right of way. If they take a risk like running or riding out into the street, just let them. Don't wave them on, but stop for them. Pedestrians and cyclists always have the right of way. So that covers look ahead. Next is look around. What are some of the typical ways that we use look around? We change our point of focus every 2 to 3 seconds. We check our mirrors every 5 to 8 seconds. And we look left, right, and left again before we enter an intersection. You need to use all of this to look around for pedestrians and cyclists, but that doesn't cover one of the most crucial aspects of look around: rock and roll. Let's hear from our operator again. What do you do to look around for pedestrians?
It's just like you said. I change my point of focus every 2 to 3 seconds. I check my mirrors every 5 to 8. And I look left and right and left again before entering an intersection. Remember, pedestrians and cyclists can be anywhere. That's why I actively look around to spot them. I also actively look around for pedestrians and cyclists while I rock and roll. Our buses have big blind spots. People can easily slip out of view. Rock and roll lets you see around your blind spots. Before and halfway through turns, rock and roll to see around your A-frame and mirror heads. Look for people who could be hidden from view in these spots. This is especially important during a left turn. A pedestrian's walking speed matches your turning speed. If they're in your blind spot, you might not realize it until it's too late. That's why you need to rock and roll and make a square left turn. A square left turn gives you a better view of the crosswalk. When you're stopped at an intersection, rock and roll to see the blind spot in front of your bus and on the curbs. Make sure no one is crossing the street, blocked from your view. When you're changing lanes, rock and roll and check your mirrors to make sure there isn't a cyclist riding beside you. And when you're leaving service stops, rock and roll to make sure the space around your bus is clear and there aren't any pedestrians in your path or trying to catch the bus as you are pulling away.
All great advice, but that's a lot to remember for just one triple LC principle. That's why you should think of it this way. You should already know when you need to look around from your new operator training. Now, just remember that anytime you look around, you need to actively look for pedestrians and cyclists as well. Next, we have leave room. The first two principles are about how you see important information about pedestrians and cyclists. Leave room is how you prevent the accident. When you stop at the intersection, leave plenty of room between you and the crosswalk. 5 feet to be exact. This helps you see the blind spot in front of the bus and prevents you from crowding pedestrians who are crossing the street. When there are pedestrians on the sidewalk, make sure you leave as much room as possible between you and them. You need this extra room in case they slip or step out into your path and get hit either by the bus or the mirror. If you're sharing the road with a cyclist, leave plenty of room by maintaining at least a 4 to 5 second following distance. You should probably leave even more room than that. The extra following distance will give you the space you need to make up for any of their mistakes. Leaving room for cyclists is extremely important, but it gets a little tricky to leave room when you're passing them. As a professional operator, what do you do to leave room in these situations?
Passing a bicyclist is a risky maneuver. That's why I try to avoid it in the first place. I look way ahead to see if there are any cyclists in my lane. That way, I can make my move in advance or just plan to stay far behind them. But if you absolutely need to pass a cyclist, pass them on their left. As you pass, leave plenty of room to your right so you don't crowd them. Most states require a 3-foot minimum. When you get back into your original lane, leave lots of room behind you so you don't cut them off. That brings us to one situation where you shouldn't pass at all. If you're approaching a turn, an intersection, or any reason to stop, don't pass them. You don't want to get in front of them and immediately stop. You risk causing them to run into the back of your bus. Only pass when you have enough time and space to do so. But again, it's best to just avoid the maneuver in the first place.
That takes care of leave room. Now, for the last triple LC principle, communicate. Look ahead and look around, let you know what other people are going to do. This one lets you tell other people what you're going to do. Use your lights, signals, and your horn to communicate with pedestrians and cyclists. Drive with your low beams on at all times. This improves visibility and allows pedestrians and cyclists to see you better. Communicate with at least 3 to 5 flashes of your turn signal before turning, changing lanes, or merging. If necessary, use your horn to get the attention of a pedestrian who isn't paying attention. And whenever possible, establish eye contact. That way, you both know that the other is there. Those are all the ways to communicate with pedestrians and cyclists to avoid accidents. But there are 2 ways that you should never communicate around them. One more time, let's hear from our operator.
It's just as important to know how you shouldn't communicate as it is to know how you should communicate. First, don't use your high beams around pedestrians and cyclists. High beams can blind pedestrians and cyclists and cause them to make costly mistakes. Second, while your horn is a great tool to get the attention of a pedestrian, you should never use your horn around cyclists. It could scare them and cause them to fall, potentially into your path. Lastly, never wave on a pedestrian, a cyclist, or anyone for that matter. If you wave someone on and they get into an accident, you could be at fault. Just give them the right of way without telling them it's safe to go.
And that's Triple LC, the 4 principles to driving safely applied to pedestrians and cyclists. Actively look ahead and look around for pedestrians and cyclists whenever you're on the road. Leave plenty of room for them in every situation. And properly communicate so you both know what your intentions are. It's all valuable information, but there's one thing we absolutely don't want you to lose sight of. It's up to you to put it to use. As a professional operator, lives are in your hands, and people are counting on you. Use these principles to prevent accidents and save lives. Thank you for your dedication to protecting pedestrians and cyclists. And thanks for your dedication to making today and every day a perfect safety day. See you next time.
Now, I bring you to the part of the meeting where I have to give you some friendly reminders. I must inform everyone here, COVID is still going on. I'm well aware a good number of the yard has been vaccinated, but due to the recent uptick in cases, we are also making sure that everyone here in the yard is wearing their mask or at least social distancing around the area. While in facility, inside the buildings, you are required to wear your mask around other people. Okay? If you are outside and outside the facility, that is an option. But here, while you're here at work, signing in a dispatch, going into managers' offices, please make sure you are wearing your mask. As well as, I must give a friendly courtesy reminder for all our drivers when it involves fare enforcement. Guys, remember, we quote the fare, we let it go. If there is an issue with a passenger for multiple times of fare evasion, please note down time, note down date, note down bus route and bus number so that we may start an investigation on these passengers. Remember, you are not the police. You just quote the fare, you let them go, and you put down no fare on your fare box. That is very important. It will save you. Because remember, guys, a lot of things are still happening out there. We must prepare and take care of ourselves. Less involvement with our passengers, the better. Okay, that is very important. Also, a friendly reminder for our drivers that drive the 270, as well as our extra boards that get assigned the 270. Primrose and Foothill is no longer a layover. Do not stop. Okay, the layover is at Magnolia and Foothill. But be aware, when you park there, shut off your bus. There is no idling. The residential area has complained numerous times. So this is very important. Please, Magnolia and Foothill is the layover. So please, when you get there, please, no idling. That is a firm reminder from our operations team. So here at Transdev, we are always looking to expand our staff. And I'm here right now to introduce our new Sebro and Claims Specialist, Miss Samantha Ramirez. So come on in, Sam. Come and introduce yourself to my people.
Hi everybody, you guys can call me Sam. My office is located across from the quiet room if you need anything workers' comp related, okay?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for everyone's favorite time. It's Drive Cam time. So what we got here first is a very interesting situation. Please remember, we are, as commercial operators, regardless of what vehicle we're driving, and I have to say that again, we have only two forms of vehicle here at this yard. Our buses and the company issued relief vehicles, or for our supervisors, their supervisor vehicle. Understand, we are professional drivers in either vehicle. Both those vehicles do not belong to you. We must take great care and great responsibility for when we maneuver and use these vehicles. Please understand, the guidelines of safety do not change. Speeding is a very serious thing, and not looking ahead and understanding what is happening in front of you, rushing, can be very dangerous. So check this out. a lesson for each of you guys to understand what it is that's happening ahead. As well as looking ahead, we must be aware, as bus drivers, we know, we get cut off all the time. People will take the chances of seeing you, understanding that you are slow, I will beat you, okay? We as professionals have to identify those that could potentially jump out in front of us, as well as our proper communication as well. And what I am including is the horn. Beeping at someone, a couple taps, letting them know, hey, it's a green light, or hey, you're getting too close to me, is okay. But hitting on it and laying on it is not okay. First of all, it's in accordance with sound ordinance, we're not supposed to be blasting our horns, okay, unless it's an actual life or death situation. Okay? And even in those cases, most people shouldn't be holding onto the horn, they should be holding onto the wheel. So that's very important to understand what is happening up ahead and using the proper way of utilizing the horn. Now we're coming up to some more serious events. All of you must understand, and I guess with the fact that school has just started for a lot of people, for a lot of parents out there and their children, let's go back to kindergarten for a second. Red means stop. Green means go. But for the professional operator, red still means stop. Green means it's your turn. And once again, with the look ahead principle, looking ahead and understanding that you are coming up to an intersection, we must take our foot off the accelerator, cover the brake, be prepared to stop. Give yourself a safe opportunity to stop. Also, yellow does not mean accelerate harder. So please pay attention to what's up ahead. Intersection, slow down, and be prepared to stop. And you'll see what I mean here. Now, going back to what I mentioned in the first video when it comes to speed, regardless what vehicle you are in, whether the relief car or the bus, we must maintain the proper posted speed limit, or at minimum 5 miles under it. On city streets especially, around those that could be bicycling or walking in the area. With this next one, understand, once again, we should be actively looking and taking our preventative action when it comes to bicyclists and pedestrians around the area. Please remember, a bicyclist is both a pedestrian and a vehicle. They have the right to be in the lane as well. It is up to us as defensive drivers to see that problem and adjust properly. As well as, once again, let's go back to kindergarten, because I love reminding you guys of this. Red means stop. Green means go. But for the professional operator, red still means stop. Green means it's your turn. And again, yellow does not mean accelerate. Please watch this next video. Now, for our final video here on Drive Cam Time, I have to bring it to a serious note. Over the last month, we had two pedestrian strikes. very serious events. This is why it is essential as a defensive driver to not rush in turns, through intersections, through highly populated areas. What you are about to see is quite disturbing. Okay? This is very serious, and I wish I could make a joke out of this, but I can't. I want each of you to understand and watch this. This is my first time getting very upset at this camera. But I have to. I have to get my point across that you are a defensive driver, not an aggressive driver. This is essential for your well-being as well as the well-being of others. You must take this as a learning lesson that this does not happen to you. This is so important for each of you to understand. This is such a hard watch. Just preparing this safety meeting and having to watch this video again and again is not fun. Seeing our drivers, people we know and work with, hurting people. This is a very serious note. So take this video as a learning lesson for each one of you to look ahead, to look around, to leave room, to communicate, to rock and roll, to actively look at your intersections. There's a blind spot, look around it. You can't see, stop. When it is not safe, you don't do it. Your turns 3 to 5 miles an hour. That is a red light. Guess what? You stop. That is perfect for a defensive driver. I don't expect you to be a perfect driver, but I expect you to be a great defensive driver. Please watch this video. Well, I hope this last video edified you and made you understand the importance of your triple LC. Looking ahead, looking around, leaving room, and communicating. Active looking is also a key component as well as rock and roll. Because as pedestrians begin to walk in the crosswalk, it is imperative for you as a defensive driver to stop the vehicle and avoid a preventable accident. With that being said, I hope this meeting edified you as a defensive driver in this month's safety meeting of August 2021. And we'll see you again in September.